This is Trade Alive with IUX, where markets come alive and trading gets real. Let's go live.
This podcast is brought to you by IUX Trading Platform, elevating your trading experience.
Welcome to Trader's Journey, a part of Trade Alive, brought to you by IUX Education, where we explore the lives, lessons, and legacies of the world's greatest traders. Imagine this for a moment. A trader who claimed he could forecast major market turns decades before they happened. No computers, no data terminals, no internet, just geometry, mathematics, and yes, the stars. Sounds unbelievable, right? And yet more than 100 years later, his name still echoes in trading rooms and market discussions across the world. William Delbert Gann. And today's episode is titled Forecasting with Gann, the Geometry of Markets. William Delbert Gann wasn't your typical Wall Street figure. He wasn't a banker or a hedge fund manager or even a classically trained economist. He was something far rarer. A visionary who believed that the markets, like the universe itself, moved according to hidden mathematical laws. Gann combined geometry, astrology, and mathematics to construct a framework for understanding market movement. To him, price charts weren't just numbers, they were maps of human behavior, reflections of rhythm, emotion, and time. His methods gave birth to tools still used today: Gann angles, time cycles, and the law of vibration. These ideas have sparked fascination, debate, and even disbelief for more than a century. Because the truth is, no trader before him ever dared to blend science, mathematics, and mysticism so boldly. Was he a genius ahead of his time, or a man who simply saw patterns where none existed? The answer, as we'll uncover today, lies somewhere in between. William Delbert Gann was born in 1878 in a small farming town in Texas. His early life was anything but privileged. He grew up working hard, selling newspapers and helping his family survive. Money was scarce, but curiosity? That was endless. As a boy, he was drawn to numbers, not just arithmetic, but the rhythm behind them. He'd watch the way train schedules ran in patterns, how seasons changed on a cycle, how rainfall and harvests seemed to follow a rhythm of their own. These early observations of order within nature would shape his view of everything that came after. By his early 20s, Gann had discovered the stock market, and unlike many of his peers who were dazzled by price and profit, Gann was fascinated by structure. He didn't just want to trade, he wanted to understand the mechanism behind the movement. He began keeping meticulous notebooks, filling them with charts, ratios, and historical market data. At a time when few people even thought about backtesting or quantitative study, Gann was effectively doing both by hand. He believed that the market, like nature, followed laws, that time and price were not random, but harmonically related. To him, every major rise and fall in price followed a rhythm, just like tides, the moon, or the orbit of planets. It was this belief that led to his famous assertion that if time governs the universe, it governs the markets too. And that single conviction became the foundation of his life's work, to prove that the market, like everything in nature, could be measured, predicted, and mastered through understanding its geometry. But as with most of the great ideas, the world wasn't ready for them. It was the early 1900s. There were no computers, no calculators, no technical analysis software. Every measurement, every ratio, every angle had to be drawn and calculated manually. Gann's notebooks were filled with thousands of hand-drawn charts. He would mark time cycles, measure angles between highs and lows, and even study astrological charts to compare planetary movement with market behavior. To most people, it looked insane. Critics laughed at him. Geometry, astrology, and finance? They scoffed. Wall Street was built on gossip, connections, and instinct, not mathematics and the motion of planets. But Gann didn't flinch. He believed that markets were simply another form of nature. and that like the rising and setting of the sun, their movements could be understood if studied deeply enough. The problem wasn't his conviction, it was his era. People simply weren't ready to believe that mathematics could reveal truth in something as emotional and chaotic as markets. And yet, despite the skepticism, Gann refused to abandon his pursuit. He wasn't in it for fame or acceptance. He was chasing understanding, a universal rhythm that linked everything together. That pursuit led him to develop his most famous principles, ideas that would later become cornerstones of technical analysis. He discovered that price didn't move randomly. Instead, it followed proportionate relationships, mathematical ratios that could be expressed geometrically on a chart. The 45-degree angle, for instance, represented a perfect harmony where time and price move in equal proportion. He noticed that when price broke above or below these angles, momentum shifted. It was an early precursor to what we now call trend lines and momentum analysis. Then came his second breakthrough, time cycles. By studying decades of data, Gann concluded that markets move in repeating intervals, cycles of 30, 60, 90, even 360 days, mirroring the cycles of the Earth, the Moon, and other natural patterns. And finally, he developed his most ambitious idea, the law of vibration. He believed that everything in the universe, from atoms to stock prices, vibrates at a certain frequency. When those frequencies align, trends form. When they diverge, corrections happen. To modern ears, that may sound metaphysical, but in Gann's mind, it was simply physics applied to finance. His process combined mathematics, observation, and discipline. He wasn't reacting to news or emotion. He was following what he saw as the market's natural rhythm. In 1909, William D. Gann decided it was time to prove his theories. For years, people had mocked his ideas, saying no man could measure the market. So Gann did something few traders of any era would ever dare to do. He opened his books, invited independent observers, and allowed them to track his trades in real time. The publication was called Ticker and Investment Digest, a highly respected financial journal at the time. For a full month, their representatives monitored every trade Gann made, each position, each exit, each calculation. And what they saw stunned them. In just 30 days, Gann reportedly placed 286 trades. Over 90% were profitable. He forecasted major market reversals, sometimes to the exact day and price level. The editors of Ticker were so amazed that they wrote, "Mr. Gann's forecasts are so astonishing as to be almost beyond belief." Whether you believed his methods or not, one thing was certain. William D. Gann had turned speculation into structure. The financial world was captivated. Traders wanted to know how he did it. Was it luck, instinct, or something deeper? Gann himself rarely revealed everything. He published books, including Truth of the Stock Tape and The Tunnel Through the Air, but they were written in a cryptic, symbolic style, part philosophy, part technical manual. Some readers dismissed them as nonsense. Others believed they contained hidden codes, a kind of encrypted roadmap to the markets. One thing's for sure, Gann knew how to make people think. But behind the mystique, there was something profoundly practical about his approach. He wasn't chasing magic, he was chasing structure. And he found it in the relationship between time and price. Gann's central idea was that every market, every instrument, moves in measurable cycles, some short, some long. He used geometry to map those cycles, converting time into angles and space into proportion. For example, his famous 45-degree line represented equilibrium, a state where the price moved 1 unit of price for every 1 unit of time. If the market moved faster than that angle, it was considered overbought. If it fell below, it was oversold. Today, that concept sounds familiar because modern indicators like moving averages, momentum analysis, and even Fibonacci retracements all echo that same principle of balance. But in Gann's day, this was revolutionary. He wasn't just reading charts, he was measuring them. He treated the market like an architect treats blueprints, precise, geometric, and deeply intentional. And beyond geometry, Gann introduced the idea of time cycles, patterns that repeat across weeks, months, and years. He claimed that significant market events, tops, bottoms, or reversals, often occurred at intervals that corresponded to natural cycles: 30, 60, 90, 180, or 360 days. These weren't random numbers. They were fractions of solar and lunar rotations, mirroring how celestial mechanics influence the flow of time on Earth. To most traders, that connection between planets and price sounded absurd. But for Gann, it was simply another law of motion, another cycle within the larger cycle. By the 1920s, Gann's reputation had exploded. He wasn't just a trader, he was a phenomenon. He ran advisory services, published annual forecasts, and built an audience of devoted followers who swore by his methods. But unlike other market gurus, Gann didn't rely on emotion or persuasion. He emphasized discipline above all else. He believed the market rewards those who can observe without reacting, those who can maintain mental clarity amid chaos. Every day, he followed a strict routine, studying charts, logging trades, reviewing patterns, updating angles and time cycles. No shortcuts, no distractions. His goal wasn't to be right. It was to stay aligned with the market's rhythm. That mindset, structure before emotion, is what modern trading psychology still teaches today. He also maintained that self-control was a trader's greatest weapon. He wrote about patience, humility, and the danger of ego, warning that emotional trading destroys both logic and balance. In many ways, Gann's philosophy wasn't far from today's focus on trading psychology. He understood that the biggest battles weren't fought on the chart, they were fought in the mind. As Gann's fame grew, so did the controversy. Some investors worshipped him as a prophet. Others called him a charlatan. But Gann didn't seem to care. He continued refining his work, testing, measuring, evolving. His system wasn't static. It was constantly adapting. He believed that markets evolve, and any method that stops evolving will fail. That's perhaps the most overlooked part of his genius, his willingness to question his own system. While others sought final answers, Gann pursued endless refinement. He once described his research as a lifelong study of natural law. That phrase reveals his mindset. He didn't view trading as gambling. He viewed it as the study of patterns, the study of life itself. And that's what made him unique. He wasn't chasing wealth for wealth's sake. He was chasing mastery. He saw markets as mirrors of human behavior, reflections of emotion, fear, greed, and time. By end of his career, Gann's work had influenced an entire generation of traders. His writings became foundational texts in technical analysis. His methods inspired everything from Elliott wave theory to modern algorithmic pattern recognition. But perhaps the most important question remains: why did he succeed where so many others failed? Was it the math, the geometry, the discipline? Or was it something deeper, a philosophy of life that transcended trading altogether? When we step back and look at William D. Gann's story as a whole, it's easy to get caught up in the mystery, the geometry, the angles, the cryptic writings, in his almost mystical aura. But beneath the surface, Gann wasn't selling magic, he was teaching discipline. He was showing that markets, like life, operate in patterns, and those patterns reward the people who can stay calm long enough to see them. In many ways, Gann was a century ahead of his time. He thought like a scientist, methodical, curious, and patient. While others speculated emotionally, he measured behavior systematically. To him, the market wasn't chaos, it was data. Every swing, every reversal, every consolidation all had a purpose. If you could understand the geometry of that movement, you could anticipate what came next. This was the birth of a new kind of trading, one based not on intuition or prediction, but on systems and structure. Modern traders might call this quantitative thinking. Gann called it natural law. Different words, same philosophy. So what truly made Gann successful? Where others failed. Not just in theory, but in mindset. First, he understood the power of observation. He didn't force patterns to appear. He waited for them to reveal themselves. Patience was his edge. In an era driven by panic and greed, Gann's composure was almost unnatural. He could step back from the noise, zoom out to see the larger rhythm, and act only when the data confirmed his conviction. That alone set him apart from nearly every trader of his time, and still does today. Second, Gann's work was built on feedback. He constantly tested, recorded, refined. Each chart wasn't just a picture of the market, it was a reflection of his own learning curve. He believed mastery was a process, never a final destination. This continuous refinement mirrors how elite traders operate even now. From algorithmic funds to day traders, the best are never finished learning, and neither was Gann. Third, he saw trading as a mirror of self. He often said that markets expose your weaknesses. If you're impatient, they'll make you wait. If you're greedy, they'll humble you. If you lack discipline, they will punish you. And he was right. The geometry, the math, the cycles, those were just tools. What really mattered was the state of mind behind the trade. In that sense, Gann's greatest discovery wasn't technical, it was psychological. He proved that success in markets begins not with predicting price, but with mastering yourself. The bridge between science and spirituality. What makes Gann fascinating even today is how he bridged two worlds that rarely meet, science and spirituality. He wasn't afraid to talk about vibration, time, or universal rhythm, yet everything he did was backed by calculation and structure. In his view, trading wasn't just a profession, it was an exploration, a way to understand how order emerges from chaos. Some traders call it intuition, others call it pattern recognition, but Gann saw it as harmony, the alignment between human behavior and natural law. He believed that the same forces that move planets also move people, and by extension, the markets they create. It's easy to dismiss that as mysticism, but if you strip away the language, what Gann was really saying was simple. Human behavior repeats. And if you can measure that repetition, you can understand the rhythm of markets. Today, Gann's fingerprints are everywhere, even in trading systems that no longer mention his name. Every time a trader draws a diagonal trend line, calculates support and resistance, or looks for repeating market cycles, they're echoing Gann's framework. The Gann angles evolved into the foundations of modern technical geometry. His time cycles inspired cyclical analysis and seasonal modeling. Even algorithmic trading, the use of data and statistical relationships, is an extension of the mindset Gann pioneered, turning observation into structure and structure into probability. He taught traders to stop guessing and start measuring. For modern traders, Gann's lessons remain timeless. 1. Think in systems, not predictions. Don't chase certainty, build frameworks that adapt. 2. Study patterns, not noise. Markets may change, but human behavior doesn't. The same emotions drive the same mistakes. 3. Discipline over emotion. Consistency isn't about genius, it's about control. A clear mind always beats a reactive one. And 4, be different intelligently. Gann dared to challenge the norms of his time. He proved that being unconventional isn't a weakness, it's an advantage when guided by logic and process. And perhaps his most important lesson of all, don't trade the market. Trade your plan. The moment you surrender to emotion, the system breaks. But if you trust the process, even when others doubt it, you win in the long run. In the end, Gann's work wasn't just about making money. It was about understanding rhythm in markets, in time, in ourselves. He believed that success wasn't found in predicting tomorrow, but in mastering today. That if you can control your reactions, you can navigate anything. Because the same discipline that brings profit also brings peace. He didn't just teach people how to trade, he taught them how to think. That's why his name still matters, not just as a legend, but as a philosophy. William D. Gann may forever remain one of the most mysterious figures in financial history, part scientist, part philosopher, part trader. But his story leaves us with the timeless truth. Patterns exist everywhere, in markets, in time, even in ourselves. The real question is, can you see them? If today's story gave you something to think about, an idea, a spark, or a new perspective, we'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comments. What do you think of Gann's approach? Science? Art? Or something in between? And if you found value in this episode, don't forget to click like, follow, share, and subscribe to Trader's Journey for more timeless lessons from the world's greatest traders. You can also visit IUX Education to explore free learning materials, trading tools, and resources, and even practice in a risk-free environment with a demo account. Until next time, stay curious, stay disciplined, and keep learning.
You've been listening to Trade Alive with IUX. Ready to put these insights into action? IUX is here to power your next winning trade.